ESPN Fantasy's Aaron Schatz joining us right now on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. Aaron, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys today?
Fantastic. It's been really, really fun to talk about what the Seahawks are doing this season. We're both obviously really excited for this upcoming game on Sunday against the Rams. I am going to start with Sam Darnold and openly admit that he has surpassed my wildest expectations this season, and that's awesome. What were you expecting for him with this marriage with Seattle, and has he surpassed your expectations?
Not this, man. Nobody was expecting this. I thought that he would give back some of the gains that he saw in Minnesota last year, especially because Seattle didn't seem to have a good receiving core other than Jackson Smith-Njigba. And instead, he's been even better than he was last year, even though they don't have a good receiving core other than Jackson Smith-Njigba and an injured Cooper Kupp and now Rashid Shaheed. But, yeah, it's pretty incredible what Darnold has done. Nobody really saw this coming.
Aaron, the Seahawks themselves, I think, have outperformed a lot of preseason expectations. You are the godfather of DVOA, and the Seahawks have been the number one team in that metric for quite some time. This matchup against the Rams, it pits the number one versus number two team in DVOA. So I imagine Sunday, this is going to be appointment viewing for you. I mean, even without DVOA, I mean, 7-2 against 7-2, it's going to be a huge matchup. What are you looking for in this one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to, unfortunately, there's also the Broncos and Chiefs are on at the same time. Quite a week. This is really good games in Week 11. Here's the wild thing, though. The difference between Seattle and the Rams is almost entirely special teams. Where Seattle is number 2, and I have the Rams 23rd. And the thing that the Rams were worst at was field goal kicking, and now they have a new kicker. So the gap between the teams may not be that large, which makes for an even better game. I mean, offense and defense, these two teams are about equal. The Rams are a little better on offense. The Seahawks are a little bit better on defense. And the Rams are more balanced. The Seahawks really have a problem that they want to run, and they can't run. But they pass more efficiently than any other team in the game.
Sticking with maybe some of those Seahawks problems kind of playing a role, you mentioned special teams being the big decider between these two. Do you have them as roughly equal in terms of offensive value? Do you have an edge for LA? How do you see that?
Yeah, the Rams are better offense because they're better running the ball. I mean, they're 21st running the ball in efficiency, and the Rams are 3rd. And the Seahawks are the better defense because they're just a little bit better. It's, both teams are pretty balanced on defense, but the Seahawks are just better than the Rams. So overall, without special teams, the two teams are about equal so far this year, but the Seahawks are more of a defensive team.
Aaron, one guy in Seattle that has had a huge impact on the success of this season is Jackson Smith-Njigba, who could be threatening the single-season receiving record this season. He's on pace for nearly 2,000 receiving yards. When you look at his game and the steps that he has taken over the last year, how impressed are you with what he's been able to do this season?
Yeah, remember once upon a time when we thought he was a slot receiver? Ha, 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 ha. No, I mean, he's in everything. He's amazing. It reminds me of Steve Smith. The year that Steve Smith, I think it was 2005, won the receiving triple crown for Carolina, even though Moshe Muhammad was injured and there were like no other receivers in Carolina. And he had Jake Delhomme as his quarterback, and yet nobody could stop the guy. And that's what Smith-Njigba is like this year. Like, if you want to, say, we don't know if Sam Darnold can keep this up, whatever. He's better than Delhomme. But, I like Shaheed a lot, and that's a good addition. But I don't know how much Kupp really has left. And Smith-Njigba has been amazing without really anybody to really take the attention of the defense otherwise.
You took a look at what you're calling the DVOA Bowl between the 1 and 2 DVOA teams, and you looked back at the meetings in past seasons between the number 1 and number 2 teams in terms of DVOA. What did you find?
Surprisingly, the number 2 team wins a lot of the time. So like I said, it's not a guarantee that Seattle is going to win this just because they're higher in my ratings, especially because the game is in Los Angeles. Now, we can argue about what kind of home field advantage the Rams have. I mean, when I said something about the game in Los Angeles, somebody responded with the current airplane ticket prices from Seattle to Los Angeles, which are very reasonable. So there probably will be a lot of Seahawks fans at this game. But, the number 2 team wins more than you might think. The good news for the Seahawks is that they get to play 2 of these, and the other one is in Seattle, and it's later in the season.
Aaron, a lot of the teams we thought were going to be contenders to start the season haven't necessarily lived up to that billing. Obviously, injuries impacting what the Bengals and Ravens have been doing this season. Is there a team that you're kind of seeing laying in the weeds right now that you are kind of like, all right, I've got my eye on them. I think they've got a big second half in store?
Well, I mean, if I say Baltimore, is that really a surprise to anybody? I think everybody knew once Lamar Jackson came back that Baltimore would be a real contender again. And their defense has been much better since they traded for safety Alohi Gilman from the Chargers, which allows them to move Kyle Hamilton around and do all kinds of interesting things with him. And so the Ravens are certainly the favorite in the AFC North, despite being 4-5. I also like the Houston Texans, who are better than their 4-5 record because their defense is the best in the league. But the way the Colts are playing, it's going to be hard for the Texans to win that division.
Is there anyone that's kind of in the opposite bracket where when you look at, deeper levels of value, you go, God, this team might be a favorite. The record is pretty solid, but they are maybe just lucking out with some of these wins?
As a resident of Worcester, Massachusetts, I'm sad to say that the answer is the New England Patriots at 8-2 have played a very easy schedule. They are in line for the 4th easiest schedule I have ever measured, and they are overly dependent on explosive plays. They were, at least, to beat Tampa this week. I love what the Patriots have done. The fact is, just going from last year's disaster to being an average team is a huge upgrade. And they're strongest where it's most important to be strongest, which is the quarterback. But they're not as good as you would normally think an 8-2 team is. They really are an average team this year.
Genuine question. By no means, I don't mean to put you on your heels here, but something tells me you know exactly how to answer this. How do you determine whether a team is overly dependent on explosive plays? Because I think there's someone who could look at Seattle and go, oh, well, they're really getting the ball downfield. Jackson Smith and Jigba's accounting for almost 40% of a target share. There's a case they could make, but it doesn't feel like that watching them. You actually look at the numbers. How do you determine, this team is way too reliant on explosives and this team just has it as part of their toolkit?
I mean, explosives are good. You need explosives. But the fact is that they're a little bit less predictive in success rate overall. And if you look at this week's game that the Patriots beat the Bucs had a success rate, keeping the sticks moving, 52%. And the Patriots were at 33%. Their running game couldn't get anything except for 2 really, really, really awesome long runs. And that's not usually sustainable. But the good news for the Patriots is most of their opponents are not as good as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Aaron, looking at some of the other contenders right now, Indianapolis off to a very fast start. They're 8-2. How real are they in your eyes? Do you see them as a potential AFC champion contender here over the season's second half?
I do. It's true that Daniel Jones has come back a little bit the last 3 weeks. He was fantastic under pressure in the first few weeks of the season, and that's very different from his career up to this point. So it makes sense that he regressed over the last few weeks. I still think the Colts are a really strong contender in the AFC. The biggest reason they're a strong contender is that they have the 8-2 record. So they're the favorite to get the 1 seed. I think if you said, who's a better team, Kansas City, which is currently not even in the playoffs, is the better team. But Indianapolis is going to have the 1 seed, and Kansas City may not even win their division.
One thing that Curtis and I, Aaron, have been kind of debating today, both of us land on the same side of it, but one thing we've been talking about is maybe like an eye test versus looking at deeper value. And a take that I'm noticing that I think is completely understandable is people going, God, when I look at the stats and when I look at the production of Seattle, a team that's flawed, but so is every team, I feel like they can be a Super Bowl team. But then when it comes to actually saying they could win a Super Bowl, so many people are hesitant to actually say it. And I think there's a lot of different reasons, and some of them are perfectly fair. But I'm wondering if, I would imagine that for you.
There's one reason.
Yes, tell me.
There's one reason. The one reason is we all think Sam Darnold is going to turn back into a pumpkin when we get to the playoffs and he feels pressure.
Do you think that?
That's what happened last year for Minnesota. That's what everybody is worried about.
Yeah.
That's the one reason why people, if anybody can't take Seattle seriously, that's the biggest reason why, is that fear that when it comes to a pressure game and the Seahawks fall behind and he has to pass, is Darnold going to be throwing picks like he did for the Vikings in the playoffs last year? And I honestly do not know the answer.
So do you think, though, none of us do, but do you think that if, let's say, the Seahawks win and he's solid in this one, do you think that starts to change, or will it take postseason wins?
I think it won't matter until he wins in the postseason. I think that because he was good, he was really good last year, and he was really good even against good opponents. And then the postseason came, and he laid a huge egg against the Rams. And I just feel like people are going to see that game in the back of their minds until he proves, until Seattle goes to the playoffs and wins. And he shows that he can play well in the playoffs and win games in the playoffs. That may not be fair, but it is how people think. And it is a little bit what I'm a little afraid of, too.
Looking at that NFC playoff picture, Seahawks and Rams are head and shoulders above really everybody else. Is there another team in the NFC that you think is capable of challenging them for possibly home field advantage here if it comes down to that in the final weeks of the season?
Sure. I mean, Philadelphia is 7-2, and they made some great trades to make their defense better. And Detroit is 6-3, but Detroit is really good. We have Detroit almost as good as the Rams. We have them fourth in our ratings. So, I mean, there's no question Detroit is a serious Super Bowl contender and has been all year. I think, they had one bad game in week one, but, a couple of losses. But overall, the Detroit is still really strong and balanced between offense and defense.
What do you see from the Packers this year?
Oh. I see a team. You just want to poke them with a stick and be like, come on,
something.
Man. Like, that at their highs, the highs can be so high, and then the play calling last night, so many runs, and not even going after the clear weakness of the Eagles, which is the second cornerback, Adoree Jackson. And and then, you have a 4th and 1 that you have to make, and you call a weird option play, and your entire interior line gives way. And yet there's other times where the Packers just look stellar. They're tremendously frustrating.
All right, Aaron. When you look at the MVP race, there are a number of options you can go with. You can go with a quarterback. Drake May in your neck of the woods has been fantastic. Heck, even Sam Darnold, JSN out here, they've been really good. Do you think it still goes to a quarterback this year, or could somebody like Jonathan Taylor come in and come away with the award?
My expectation is there are enough of us who are voters who believe that quarterback is just the most important position in the game. Unless you're going to change the wording of what it means to vote for the award and say best player compared to the average at his position, then there's no question. Actually, but listen, Jonathan Taylor is doing some great things this year. If you think Jonathan Taylor is more important to his team than Matthew Stafford is to his team, you're nuts.
Fair. Absolutely fair. What stats typically rank heaviest in a vote for a quarterback? I mean, it's going to be a vote for a quarterback almost no matter what. I use my own,
obviously.
Yes, of course.
Other people use other, there's more. The thing I will say is that the changes that they've made to the panel over the last few years have brought on more people like myself who are analytically minded. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see more of an interest in analytical stats, whether it's DVOA or EPA or ESPN's QBR, because you have people who think analytically on the panel like Doug Farrar or Mina Kimes or myself. Sam Monson. So, that's what I would say is you can't really quote any old stats and be like, oh, man, it's just touchdowns. That's all that matters. It's more complicated than that now.
Chief Analytics Officer for FTN Network and FTN Fantasy, Aaron Schatz. You can access all of Aaron's DVOA and other advanced NFL metrics and stats at ftnfantasy.com. Go right now. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.